You are now tuned into the Clout101 Marketing Podcast.
Do anything for clout.
Dissecting the marketing strategies behind the most influential people, brands, and moments in culture.
Whole lot of people need to hear this.
Today is your day.
Power your hustle with the Clout101 Marketing Podcast.
Hey guys, it's Chizzy Drew here.
This is your girl Chanel, and you are now tuned into
Clout101.
Clout101 Podcast.
And now your host, Idia Ogala.
Welcome to the Clout101 Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Idia Ogala. On Clout101, we talk to some of the most successful people across different industries and decode the marketing strategy behind the most iconic moments, brands, and campaigns in culture. On today's episode, we have a very, very special guest joining us. Imani Ellis is the founder of the Creative Collective NYC and the world-renowned CultureCon. The CCNYC is a community and creative agency designed to facilitate brave spaces for multicultural creatives, and CultureCon, which is the CCNYC's marquee event, is a conference dedicated to professional creators of color and has featured high-level speakers like Tracee Ellis Ross, Will Smith, Regina King, Lena Waithe, Spike Lee, John Legend, and Nick Cannon, to name a few. On this episode, we cover so much, but three things that stick out to me that I feel you'll learn is: one, how to effectively market an event; number two, adapting your event strategy to this post-pandemic world, so how to create hybrid events that feature physical aspects but also have a large digital component and give you the opportunity to reach global consumers and people within your audience. And then the third part is just building a loyal community. So Imani's an expert when it comes to all three of these things, and she sheds light on a lot of her learnings from her entrepreneurial journey. And it's a lot of stuff that you can definitely take and apply to what it is that you're working on each day. And just lastly, before we jump into the episode, if you enjoy content like this, if you love marketing and branding content, please subscribe to Clout101. We're available on all streaming platforms. Just head to Clout101.com. And also we have 6 episodes that are all fire that you can check out and learn a lot from. Without further ado, Imani Ellis. Thank you very much, Imani, for joining. I appreciate you coming in, sharing some gems today, especially on the marketing space and the branding space, specific to large companies that you're in the process of building. So thank you for being here today.
No, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Of course, no worries. So jumping right in, your experience is very, very vast. You currently are a publicist at NBC, but prior to that, you've had a history working at CAA, Universal Music Group, ESPN, Nickelodeon. A lot of talent, a lot of production, obviously communications and publicist work. So just to kind of lay the foundation for all of the amazing things you're doing right now and you're continuing to scale, how did some of these earlier, professional experiences give you, whether it was the tools, the skills, the context, the confidence to be able to lead these organizations and build out such impressive platforms?
I love this question because I think it is so important to kind of look back and see how not even just your professional work, but like how your whole life kind of comes together like a mosaic to create who you are today. Because before I was interning at any of those places or working at any of those places, I did ballet for 14 years. I ran track, so I was an athlete. And I'm also the daughter of 2 preachers. And
Nice.
All of those things, you look back, you're like, wow, like they really played such a big impact on who I am, because being an athlete, it was like this must-win mentality. You don't do all that conditioning to get 3rd place. So
Yeah.
I wanted to win, and not by any means necessary, but as long as it was up to me, I was going to do the best job I could do. And so being from the South, coming to New York City, I felt like such a little fish in a big pond, but I loved it. Like I was like the underdog. I mean, I was from, Alabama and Georgia. And so at all of these internships, I was willing to do all of the most unglamorous things. At CAA, they had me running all over the city, delivering things to celebrities and getting coffee, and just every task that they gave me felt like it was the Super Bowl and it was in the 4th quarter and I had to make it happen. And so I think for me, it's kind of like, that's how I approach everything, is must-win mentality, do your best, or why did you even try? And I think that's an accumulation of so many other things.
So I love everything you just said. That was amazing. Two things that stood out to me. So you said that you were an athlete and you mentioned being the daughter of preachers, right? So I'd imagine there was a certain expectation or certain structure that you kind of had to adhere to as a young woman growing up. And I find that interesting because the last like three guests, same thing. Like Pollyanna, she said she was Olympic swimming hopeful, right? Had that structure. Moby, same situation. So it just seems that that structure from athletics and also just the, as you mentioned, competition, that kind of breeds a certain push for excellence that's just sometimes not present in other people who don't have those same experiences. So how much of that contributed to your wants, your desire to pursue entrepreneurship?
Oh my gosh, a huge amount. I mean, I did not want to pursue entrepreneurship first. I will just say that. I really went out to join a board or to be maybe the event lead or the PR lead for an
Mhm.
existing organization. But what was happening was I was going to different events and I was like, well, they didn't start on time. And why didn't they have food? Or like their chicken fingers were cold. And I just was like, I can't be the person who just goes to put things and complains. I just wasn't raised that way. It's like, don't be the squeaky wheel, like get some oil and fix it. And so I was like, okay, well, then I'm going to invite people over to my house and we're going to curate the event that we don't see in the world. But like that athletic mentality is like the foundation, that and my faith. And it's interesting that you say kind of like confined, because I don't feel like I was confined at all. If anything, I feel like I was given like a toolkit and a North Star that allowed me through so many ups and downs to have like steady ground. And so the reason that CultureCon feels like a living room is because it's born out of a Bible study. The reason that you don't come there and feel like there's like everyone looking down at you or, oh, you're not VIP, or is because we curated it that way, because my faith and just like how much I think it shaped like who I am has really, I think, amplified like grace and how I look at what's important at our events. And so I don't know, my parents at a young age were kind of like, listen, here's what we're presenting, but you're like a free human being to move throughout the world. And so because of that, I didn't go to college and like learn about alcohol for the first time. Like
Yeah.
I had a really normal free childhood. And I always just have to throw that out there because I just think that there's just so many representations of what it means to have a relationship with God. And I think a lot of it is just like caricatures of things
Yeah.
and not based in truth.
So building on that, and I like that as well. We had a guest, his name is Matty J. He
I
also, he
love
spoke.
Matty J. He's in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, and then, yeah, I see you on Clubhouse as well, so we have to talk about that a little bit later in the conversation. But yeah, Maddie, we kind of spent some time on that because a lot of entrepreneurs, they talk about their successes, they talk about their specific journeys, but some of them are God-fearing women and men and don't lean into that side of it. I don't know if it's because they think it's going to turn people off or whatever the case may be, but you were just talking about how it's important to wear that on your sleeve so that people who are coming after you, right, who are following you and want to be able to achieve some of the things that you've achieved, they know that it's not just like two people in a bedroom just trying to figure it out, or two people in the office trying to figure it out. That no, I'm being guided by something beyond me. I'm serving a purpose, and I'm also putting in the hustle and the effort to be able to execute on all levels. But I think that kind of not leading with faith, but I think wearing it on your sleeve and being proud of it is very important to let people know, hey, it's possible if you're able to tap into this higher being and put in the work. So I like that. What you said reminded me of a quote: when you're closest to the problem, you're closest to the solution, right? So I like that you saw things in events that you went to and then you resorted to, I'm going to try and be that person who's going to change this experience and create something better and something that checks more boxes. So I definitely like that. Can you speak more to how the conference, what inspired the conference, what led to its birth, and how you kind of took it from idea to something physical, something tangible?
Yeah, the first pain point any entrepreneur is going to have is trying to decipher if there is a market and a need for what they want to create. If there is not a market or a need for what you want to create, you got to start over. And I think what I realized is that usually when there is a pain point, it's so obvious to you. Chances are it's probably obvious to a lot of people. So I didn't even realize that. Now I could look back and see, but I just was like, okay, I'm a Black woman. Where do I go if I want to network, if I don't want to pay $1,000 for this conference and there's only one Black person on the panel at the end of the day? I can't be the only Black woman who thinks like this. And so it started, as I think most things should, with just being consistent in a way that is able to scale. And what I mean by that is, like, I think a lot of times people see CultureCon and they're like, whoa, Tracy Ellis Ross, Will Smith, big brands. And they're like, we want to build CultureCon. But you really have to go back and look at the days when it was just 20 people consistently, in my apartment. Because if you can do something consistently, that's like the hardest thing to overcome. I think a lot of people can do things for like 2 weeks, which is fine. That's not shade. I'm just saying, if you don't want to do it longer than 2 weeks, you probably shouldn't do it. And so we really consistently were meeting and meeting and meeting until we outgrew my apartment, because the whole kind of guerrilla marketing strategy was bring someone you can vouch for, because it was my house. And so
like that.
Every time people would bring people, and then there were like 40 people in my apartment. And, I was talking to my mom the other day, and I had to really thank her, because she and my dad gave me an unlimitless mindset, meaning that, like, I truly believe that I can do anything through Christ and hard work. Like, there's no limit. So I think I wasn't like, why can't we throw a conference? I was like, we're going to throw a conference. And when I look back, I'm kind of glad I was a little bit like naive about what that meant, because I didn't know you had to have, all these different things to make it happen. I was just like, we're going to do it. And the team, who are also my great friends, they saw the vision and they believed it. And that's a long story short, but that's how we went from 20 people in an apartment to nearly 3,500 people in a huge warehouse in Brooklyn.
Can you speak to the structure of the original ones in your apartment? Just a networking opportunity for individuals. Did you have maybe a guest speaker come in and talk about specific topics that were near and dear to the people in the room? Like, I'm just trying to visualize it in my mind.
Just literally it was super democratized from the beginning. There wasn't one speaker on a pedestal. I had seen that before, right?
Exactly.
What it was 20 people in a room who I personally had invited. And we all went around the room and said either what we were working on or what we needed help in. And it was as versatile as, I'm trying to date in New York City, to I have a meeting with my boss next week, like, any tips on how to ask for a promotion. And it was just so vulnerable, because this was in 2017. Conversations like this weren't publicly happening. This is, I don't know if you remember, but this was like the apex of like perfection on Instagram. So everyone was just like, look what I just did, look what I just did. And no one was like, oh my gosh, I'm actually like really trying to figure this out. Exactly. So it felt like therapy.
I like that. That's amazing. And then, so obviously transitioning from that to what you just mentioned, thousands of people in the Brooklyn warehouse. So when you realized that it was outgrowing your personal space, right? Were there any existing platforms that kind of served as inspiration? Obviously, there was nothing similar to CultureCon, right? Nothing at all is very unique. But were there any platforms, any events that you were like, okay, I'm going to use this as the basis of what I want to build for CultureCon, and then just obviously add my unique twist to it?
I mean, not one particular, I think, inspiration stood out, because if it had, I probably would have joined that team.
Got it.
I wasn't looking to start something all by myself. I had a full-time job and like a great, fun social life. I think that's what I tried to do, was the organizations, or I think the offerings that I saw. You know what I actually was really inspired by? Everyday People.
Yes.
And Roble. And I just thought that like Everyday People did such a great job. I mean, it was a day party, but I thought they did such a great job of just putting people in a room and letting the magic happen. It wasn't too structured. Like, sure, they had brunch, but then it was just 3 floors of just dancing and living.
Energy, good energy.
And good energy. So I liked that. And I had gone to those religiously. So I guess that would be the closest thing for inspiration, but I just wanted a vibe where people could be themselves, really, was the biggest kind of North Star. And then everything else just supported that notion.
That's a seamless transition into the next question. So definitely, I mentioned good energy, and you said that that was kind of what you wanted to model CultureCon through everyday people and the inspiration there. So when I first learned about CultureCon, right, like what stood out to me was the branding, And as a consumer, right, putting my marketing hat aside and putting the fact that some of the people on the team, like Simone, like I know them, right? So putting that aside, the energy, the aesthetics, that just kind of stood out to me as something that I've never kind of felt in terms of a professional conference, right? And I kind of like trusted you guys off of the branding and wanted you to take my money before I knew what the lineup of speakers were and all the different topics and all that stuff. So I think that you guys did a great job, marketing hat aside, consumer focused only. So can you just talk about like, all right, the name, right? How did the name come about? And then also I want to talk about developing the brand identity. So like I just mentioned with the aesthetics, with the logo, with the colors, just what went into that? What was the inspiration? What vendor did you guys use? Was it in-house? I just want to know everything about that because
You should
I
give
think
me
that
all the tea.
that's a great place to start for people who are trying to build a bulletproof brand and to be able to use as inspiration and guide their paths.
Wow. I mean, goodness. The name, we were all sitting together and just thinking of different names. And I don't even remember exactly. I just knew that like it was a very collaborative process. Now, listen, I love how much credit you're giving us for the branding because originally CultureCon had a totally different logo in 2017. We just were kind of like learning. So, like, again, stakes were low. We had like 100 followers on Instagram. The first CultureCon only had about 200 people there, but we sold out. And I saw that there were 400 people on the waiting list. I was like, wait, like, people trust us. And again, because it didn't exist in the world, we were telling people this is a brave space and behind the curtain are people just like you. So there was trust there, but we're still going to start on time and we're still going to give you free lunch and you're still going to get an agenda. Like we're not cutting any corners. So I think in year 2 was when we got the new logo. We realized that the first logo had served us well, but like we needed something that could be transferable and could live and really just like serve as like a word mark. And so we found this amazing designer and he just like breathed it and created that amazing piece of art. Shout out Eric Para. I mean, just beautiful. And then from there, it really was just us thinking about kind of what you just said. What do we want people to feel? What is our tagline? Our point of view was that we were going to have ownership of something that we felt was being extracted from us and we weren't getting credit for. And so we were very bold with it. We loved that Jay-Z had been like, not only we are culture, nothing moves without us. And so we tipped our hat to that because we just wanted to say it with our chest. And I think from there, it was like a bunch of melting pot ideas. We have a lot of, I call them unicorns on our team because they're just brilliant people. And we sit at these long conference tables and just throw things at the wall and then kind of take it away. I mean, now there's a machine that understands our brand guidelines and the decks, but that did not exist. It really was like, I don't like those two colors together. I mean, it was very gut. I used to be a very gut-oriented person, and now I'm moving into being a very data-oriented person.
Got it. Listen, more power to you guys because I think that you, again, doing a fascinating job, even with the brand for CultureCon at home, which we'll kind of get to a little bit later, and the messaging and the copy behind that as a marketer. I'm like, you guys are, man, this is amazing. So kudos to you. Kudos to you.
It's so amazing for you to notice things like that.
Yeah.
We think of ours. We're like, okay, what's the tagline? Home is wherever you are, because we know that in June, people are everywhere. I mean, thank you for that. That's amazing.
No, listen, we have a lot to go through, but I'll save the flowers for the end. But all right, so let's talk marketing. I'm curious. I know you mentioned that the first conference you said had 200 people, right? The first, real one that you were looking to execute. So what was your general like marketing strategy for year 1? And, did it meet your expectations? I guess that's the first part of the question.
Marketing strategy this is when the safe spaces started really like becoming trendy. Safe spaces. And I was like, it's not enough to have a safe space. You need to have a brave one. So I was like, we create brave spaces for creatives of color. And we really started just leaning into bravery. I had just read Cheryl Strayhead's Brave Enough book. You should read it. It like impacted me on such a level that I was like, right, like be brave in your life. And that drove our messaging for bravery. And people in the beginning, we posted it. It probably got 4 likes and shared, but we just kept going and we ended up selling out. I want to say we sold out like 3 weeks out.
Okay.
And from there, it was just us telling people, no, we literally can't fit anymore.
Scarcity marketing.
Yeah, like main stage sessions, Spike Lee came. We had breakout sessions. We had a Spike Lee room scavenger hunt. So you went in and like there were like different things from Spike Lee's life. And like to this day, I have a picture of Spike Lee looking at the Spike Lee room in the window that it says Spike Lee. And I spray painted all of those letters by hand in my apartment. I almost passed out. It was just like, but it was worth it. And then that really propelled us to year 2 where we jumped to 800 people and then ended up jumping to 3,000.
So what did you learn about your marketing plan from those first couple of years? Anything that really stood out to you as areas that you want to take into your strategy for the future? Just very curious because I know you guys tested a lot of different things and again, the results have been amazing. So what really stands out?
One of the things I think we really learned was that the riches are in the specifics. Like people are drawn to understanding specifically what you're going to talk about. So I think a lot of times people are like, entrepreneurship. You really should talk about marketing strategies for new entrepreneurs or how to build a team or how to get press. You know, things that are very specific. We realize that people really want to learn. And when you're able to really carve out what they're going to learn, that almost does better than just saying we're going to have a big celebrity. I think another thing that we really learned was that you have to put yourself, I think, in that user journey, because I think what we just thought, we were just going to announce it and people were just going to know what CultureCon was. And so what we did in year 2 was really, really nurtured what CultureCon was, the origin story, why you should care. First year, we were just like, come to CultureCon. I mean, there was no like, what is this? And I think in 2018, we really started nurturing why you should care. And then also in 2019, we introduced our pillars. So it's building a life, hustle smarter, and driving culture. And I think that really solidified what CultureCon is. And what a creative is. A creative is anyone who's curious, whether you have a corporate job or you're working in an entrepreneurship role. I think we really start to hone in who we're targeting, and that's gotten stronger every single year.
I like that you guys make that distinction about what a creator is, because I think people feel like if I'm not painting, if I'm not like, if I don't have a product, digital product, that I'm not a creator. And it's like, no, we're all creators. We just channel it differently. So I definitely like that. So as inclusive as possible. I like your approach there. And then another question on marketing, what channels did you like use to support the development of the event? So, you know, whether social media, paid ads, you know, obviously press, I'm assuming, because you're a guru at press, influencer marketing. Did you tap into colleges, employee resource groups, like anything specific that you wanted to highlight in terms of marketing channels?
Yeah, I'll just stick with 2019 here because I think that's going to be the best case study. But yeah, we used a lot of different channels. So community marketing, we were able to work with like the linked like digital displays in New York City and got our ads all over the city. So like out of home marketing, we also did paid ads. That was the first year we did paid ads in 2019 and just saw such a great return in terms of like how far the reach could go when you just let it work for you. A lot of community partners were based in the community. So, you know, affiliate links and things like that. Press for sure. I mean, luckily for us, a lot of the people that are a part of our community are like reporters. So you didn't really have to sell them much because they had been coming to our events throughout the year, which I think, again, is just like a testament to what happens when you build things for an existing community. You don't have to go beg reporters to write about CultureCon because there's Black journalists and people who just already understand the mission. And then I think also kind of like timing different like sales and promotions. We did like a Memorial Day sale. We did free student tickets if you applied. So really just tried to look at each of the segments and then try to figure out how we could reach them best.
Again, amazing job. So I just want to say that. Transitioning to talent marketing. So Will Smith, Regina King, Tracy Ellis Ross, Keke Palmer, Sanaa Lathan, like the list goes on, right? Spike Lee, as you mentioned before. I would imagine, right, based on what you just said about community and how you guys are just serving people who are connected, right, who have these relationships, who have worked with these people probably, that securing these talented individuals were a matter of leveraging relationships, right, mixed with cold outreach and all that stuff. But just in general, can you just share some tips for pitching, closing, and delivering high value for talent, especially for people who are listening who might want to, see how they can engage with these people for their events moving forward?
Yeah, listen, I think it's a two-way street. You have to make sure that what you're inviting the talent to do is really what you say it's going to be. So it's a lot of pressure on you. You can't invite Spike Lee to a Spike Lee room and then you like drop the ball and you didn't do it because it just hurts you so much. But we have a really strong talent team led by my really good friend Eric, and that's really just his superpower is like everybody loves him and he has so many great relationships. So he is our fearless leader there. And he and I work very closely because he knows what it's going to take to get the talent. And I have to make sure that we're delivering that thing. So again, it's like a very balanced relationship because you don't want to invite talent to an empty room. So I think for anyone who's trying to figure out how to start, I think it's the same way you start with like brand partnerships is you start on the local level so that by the time you get whoever your dream guest is, all the logistics are worked out and they have an amazing experience because not only did Tracy Ellis Ross attend, she posted it all over Instagram.
Yeah, she did.
Back. And that was really the perfect, I think, example of our talent team delivering this incredible larger than life talent, but then our operations team making sure that like whatever Eric is pitching is what actually happens.
I like that. You hinted at brand partnerships, so that's another natural transition. So obviously there were a lot of notable and amazing partners. As a partnerships marketing guy, I was amazed by what you guys have been able to do in terms of relationship building in the corporate space. Can you just talk through the process of identifying brands that align with like the objective of CultureCon, right? Authentic brands, and talk through that experience. Were there any non-negotiables? What was your position in general?
Yeah, we've been very fortunate that a lot of our partners really understand our community. And that's very important because you can skip the awkward step of being like, no, that wouldn't work here.
Yeah.
No, we're not comfortable doing that. In terms of non-negotiables, I don't even think we get to that point because it really is a collaboration. So like we're talking through, what they have coming up and then talking through ways that it could activate in like a really powerful way. And so it's like, it really is a partnership. And so I think for us, when you look back at, the small business market with Target or, just so many of the different partnerships that have shown up, I'm really proud about those because I think that they all showed up in very individual ways, but very like intentional ways. Yeah. I mean, listen, the very first year, the sponsorship was that Samsung gave us the space and didn't charge us.
Got it. Yeah.
So the first year it was like, let's just like not lose money. And then you just grow after that.
Yeah, that's a very good distinction because some people feel like once a partner logo is slapped on something, it means that the, brand, the company is rolling in the money. It's like, no, sometimes it can be in-kind, sponsorship opportunities where it's just product or, space in exchange for the visibility. And then it, progresses as you build yourself and you make a name for yourself and become credible to the money that allows you to then be able to spread it across other areas of your business. So I like that distinction. Was there a favorite partner activation that you have to date? Because when I came, Foot Locker did a lot of amazing things. Nike, it was great. So anything?
What? No, I mean, listen, Activation Alley was wild, right? You had like Foot Locker with a full court basketball, and then you had HBO that did, the POV and you were in the director's chair, and Netflix did the music video. I mean, I could go on and on. Like Sony built a bodega. I mean, Bumble was there for like matchmaking, and Cadillac painted a car, and Martell. I mean, I think that's what makes it so incredible is we really are thinking about community first and how can we create these spaces for us. I think that people were really thankful to just see these partners showing up in such a way that is like, we're investing in this community. We're not giving you all a few free chips. Like it was an investment. We did the world premiere of Queen and Slim. That's so amazing. So I'm so thankful to all of our partners because I think we were able to really show proof of concept, which is always desired when you're trying to build something new.
Is there one partner that you haven't worked with yet that you'd love to pursue, some sort of relationship with for future CultureCon's?
Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah, like I have like such a dream list. I think it's like anyone who touches culture should be at CultureCon. And I think we're really getting there. We have new conversations all the time. I also like really, really, really want to find a way to have like Oprah at CultureCon.
There we go.
You should just set your limits that high. Why not?
That's not that high with the work you guys are doing. I'm telling you, what Will you reach out to Westbrook and have Will and then put you in contact with Oprah. Listen, it's not impossible. We'll tag her in this episode and in this post, and we'll make sure that she listens to this. Okay. Okay, so this is like the final segment, but I think it's very, very important. So obviously the conference, right, started prior to obviously everything that took place this past year, given the pandemic, right? I just want, in general, if you can kind of give your thoughts and experience on the transition from physical event. You guys were doing digital stuff, but now it's almost like the pandemic comes, pivoting in your strategy. Seems like you're going fully digital. Again, I could, give you opportunity to kind of clarify that, but just talk about what that was like, what the last year has been like, and how you guys have been able to kind of pivot upon hearing the news of the shutdown.
2020, I think everyone was like 2020, perfect vision. Like we were,
we all were, we all were saying that.
Right. We all thought, we were excited. We were going to do the first ever CultureCon pop-up in May in Atlanta, 2 tickets away from being sold out to that. And then we were going to do CultureCon prep. Yeah. I would tell you all the things planned, but we're going to just do it again next year. But it was, cannot wait. And then we were going to do New York in October. And I think I was really late to the party because my team understood what was happening way before I did. They were like, so are we going to cancel? And I'm like, guys, CultureCon's not till October. It's March. Tranquilo. I was really late and I had a delayed reaction. And then I realized that the Olympics were canceled.
NBA.
The NBA was canceled. And to be honest with you, when I saw that it was bigger than me and that nothing I could do could fix this, I actually was able to let go. And so we refunded everybody's tickets. We canceled all the flights. We canceled all the hotels. And we just kind of like hung out for a little bit. I went to visit my sister on a farm, spent a month there. I read a lot. And then I was like, okay. Then June came and it was just like such a reckoning. And we were up again to build things for our community. And after that, we decided that we wanted to just understand what our community wanted more of. And so we did a poll and 95% said that they wanted videos on demand masterclasses over a virtual happy hour. So we built creative curriculum. And we had Kerry Washington and Lena Waithe and Big Sean teaching masterclasses for entrepreneurs. So that launched last September, did amazing, gave over 2,000 tickets away to students, sold another 3,000 tickets, and then brought it back in March. So it just launched 2 weeks ago. And I think, through it all, I think we all were just trying to mentally grasp what was happening. And I think that looking back, I just couldn't have imagined how much it just forced everything to stop. But in the same way, I think I'm very thankful for that time. And again, I say that as a very loaded sentence because I know that it was a time of like extreme loss and grieving. But for me personally, in my bubble, I really was just, I never would have been able to stop like this in the life that I knew. I was never going to slow down. I was probably going to burn out.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of us, feel guilty with that take, as you mentioned, given all the grief this taken place this year. But I think that some of us will look back at this past 12 months and say it was very, transformative in terms of being able to reflect, be able to kind of realign with priorities that make sense and can reconnect with family, do all that stuff, get closer to our purpose, our calling. So I agree with you 100%. So coming out of that, you mentioned the creative curriculum, correct? Creative
Yeah.
curriculum. And then also, as we talked about earlier, CultureCon at home is seeming to be the adjustment in the messaging and in the direction from a marketing point of view for this year. So I saw CultureCon goes global. I think that's amazing. I think a lot of industries are kind of, instead of saying, we're missing out on the money from, transactions that are happening physically, they're saying, let's broaden our scope and tap into people in different countries. And maybe instead of a conference that's only 6 hours long in New York, now we make it 24 hours long and we just target different areas of the world that have Black creators. Can you just talk a little bit about that, about the adjustment, and then just about how the marketing strategy kind of changes with that adjustment?
I told you I'm leaning more towards the data. So what we learned from creative curriculum is that people in over 22 different countries were watching creative curriculum, and people were emailing us and saying, "Hi, I'm in India. It doesn't clarify what time zone these courses are in." And I'm like, India? Like, I just like, this started in my list. I'm like, wait, what? And so we were looking at the data, like, oh my gosh, 22 different countries, people in South Africa, people in London, people in Australia. And I realized, listen, as much as we want it, 3,000 people aren't getting in a room next week, next month. I mean, hopefully next year. So we have to just face this head on and listen. I mean, I don't know if we're going to go back to a world that doesn't have a digital component. So even when we are back outside, CultureCon at home can still be accessible for people who are in India and Australia. And so it just made sense to kind of bring that to life. And we've got a lot of surprises that are going to come up, a lot of like fun activations that we're going to roll out because it's us, it's been very thoughtfully curated. So it's going to feel like an experience. And I think for us, that's why we waited a year and we didn't just come out the gate in 2020 with a virtual one, because I just feel like I owe it to our community to give the best that we possibly can. And to your point, how you were like, that marketing grabbed me. Like, we just take that so seriously. We take it so seriously. I think some people are surprised because, they think group of friends, and they think everything's in a group chat. And don't get me wrong, we love a good group chat, but like, we run like an engine over here because we have to. We owe it to our community. So there's going to be some fun surprises. I can't give too much away, but like there will be some feelings of hybrid. There will be a lot of things. And good CultureCon nature, the people who buy in first always end up winning. Every year people are like, oh, I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to wait. And I'm like, okay, I mean, fine. I mean, I understand, but we're working hard.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing. So a couple more questions. I know that you have a couple minutes left. So first question, what have you learned about Imani over the last 5 years? So this whole process of founding the CCNYC, what have you learned about yourself?
Well, that's great. I've learned that I love to have control, not because I don't trust other people, but just because I know I can trust myself. So it's not a personal thing, but I just know that if you give it to me, that athlete in me, I'm going to get it done. And what I've realized is like that comes at a cost and it's not sustainable. And so what I've done instead is just put the right people in the right seats so that I can relinquish control and live a balanced life. Like that's been the longest lesson for me to learn. But I talk to founders all the time and give them advice all the time. And the number one thing that's slowing a founder down from like this great idea to scaling is they cannot put process in place and relinquish control. They want to be the one answering every email. They want to be the one running the Instagram. And I was that person. So that is like the biggest thing I've definitely learned about being an entrepreneur for sure.
And having that understanding of, I think like more than half the battle is understanding that, right? So you understand that. And once you come to terms with that, then you can put the pieces in place to make it make sense for you and to ensure that you and your team are successful. So kudos to you for that. Next question, it's Women's Month, right? And the CCNYC is a minority woman-owned business, right? So can you just talk about how meaningful this is to you, especially given how successful you guys have been, right? And then what's your message to women who are inspired by your accomplishments, following your footsteps, build a company or grow their brand in 2021?
Yeah, I think it is very interesting. And I will say this and maybe regret it, but I don't put a lot of emphasis on being a woman. I think that there are superpowers there, but I don't walk into a room full of men and feel like, oh, I'm a woman. Like, I'm so happy to be here. I'm like, no, I need to be here because I can speak the best on this particular topic. So I think for women that are looking to grow, I think what we've talked a lot about mind shift on our conversation today. I think you really have to make sure that like you aren't setting limitations in your own mind, because I think it affects all the decisions that you make. And so I've had situations where like I've been in conversations and I've had a man try to mansplain to me why blah, blah, blah. And I don't take it personally. I'm just like, oh, nope. I need you to actually go back and do it right the first way. And I think I don't really give the excuse of like, oh, he's talking to me that way because I'm a woman. Well, if that's the reason, that's his problem. He's still going to deliver the results that I need. So I think women, you are amazing and powerful, and your gut that God gave us, that instinct, when you know something's off, that's a superpower. Listen, we be knowing. We're like, I don't know. And I'm like, yeah, that is not something that everyone has. So we have to be thankful about it.
Nice. I agree. Women are superheroes. I say it all the time. So rapid fire, do you have, it will take no longer than 1 minute. It's just 5 questions. What's one book, podcast, or content series that has helped you along your journey?
Traction.
Okay. That's a book, correct? Book. Okay. What's the best piece of life advice you've been given to date?
In the end, everything will be okay. If it's not okay, it's not the end.
Ooh, I like that. What's your favorite quote or mantra that helps you through challenging times?
Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28.
I like that. If you can choose anyone to be your mentor, who would it be?
Will Smith.
Will Smith. Okay, cool. And then last question, who's on your board of directors and what's their relation to you? So your personal board, people who help you navigate life and business and everything.
Fadia Cater, Brittany Escovedo, Amber Mayfield, Nabila Ahmed, Michael Aloide, my parents, and my boyfriend.
Nice. Okay. Thank you very much for joining. 2 minutes. I hope we did a good job and get you to your next meeting. Thank you
so much for having me.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. We hope you found immense value in the discussion. More importantly, though, we also hope that you were able to kind of take away some practical gems that you can use to power your hustle today and act on them immediately. For episode notes, for resource lists, for cheat sheets, for extended show notes, please visit Clout101.com. And also to stay up to date on all things Clout101, we ask that you please follow us on Instagram. It's at Clout101 MKTG. So at Clout101 MKTG. Lastly, and I mentioned this in the intro, but I have to stress this. Lastly, it would mean the world to us if you left a rating for us on Apple Podcasts. And if you don't use Apple Podcasts, just please feel free to pass this episode to any one of your friends, family members, professional contacts that you think can leverage this. We're available everywhere on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pandora, everywhere. So just check us out. Please spread the word and, feel free to reach out to me directly to provide any feedback, suggestions. Always looking for feedback on future guests. So, please shoot me a DM on Instagram or shoot me a message on LinkedIn and I'll be sure to reply immediately. I'm Idia Ogala signing out. Stay safe, blessed, and encouraged. Peace.